Good morning to everybody for one of the virtual regional hearings on the state budget that we will be holding today. I'm Senator George Barker, and for the last 16 years have been representing parts of Alexandria, Fairfax, and Prince William, parts of each of those jurisdictions. I'm co-chair of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. Unfortunately, my other co-chair is Senator Janet Howell from the Reston area, is ill and could not participate with us today. This is one of the 4 virtual regional hearings on the state budget being held across the Commonwealth today by the Senate Finance and Appropriations and the House Appropriations Committees. Each year, the committees are required by law to hold a series of public hearings on the governor's proposed budget to give all of you, the citizens of Virginia, the opportunity to comment on specific issues of concern to you. Today is your opportunity to talk, and our job as legislators is to listen to you. Let me take a moment before we begin to have the other legislators with us today introduce themselves. Staff will call out your name, and then you may state your name and the district you represent.
I'll start. Delegate Krizak.
I am Paul Krizak. I represent the 16th District, the southeastern portion of Fairfax County, Mount Vernon, and Franconia. Good morning.
Senator Marsden.
Thank you, Mike. This is Senator Dave Marsden from the 35th Senate District, a member of the Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee. The 35th District is most of Annandale, most of downtown central Springfield, and the 236 corridor between Alexandria and the city of Fairfax. Good to be here. Anxious to hear everyone's comments.
Delegate Torian.
Good morning. I'm Delegate Luke Torian. I represent the 24th House District, which is eastern Prince William County.
Delegate Plum.
Yes, good morning, everyone. I'm Delegate Ken Plum. Until Tuesday of next week, I represent the 7th District in the House of Delegates. Thank you all for participating. Your input to the process is very important.
Senator Eben.
Good morning. I will represent the 39th District starting on January 10th, which includes the entire city of Alexandria, Crystal and Pentagon City in Arlington, as well as Arlington Ridge, part of it, and in Fairfax, Bailey's Crossroads, part of Bailey's Crossroads, 7 Corners and Skyline. Thank you.
Delegate Reed.
Good morning. I'm Delegate David Reed and I represent the new 28th District, which is the eastern portion of Loudoun County.
Delegate Sickles.
Good morning. The 17th District, which I'll represent on January 10th, is just west of Delegate Krizak. So I'm up to the Alexandria City line and down to the Hilltop Wegmans. Have all of Kingstown and surrounding area.
And Delegate Bulova.
Good morning, everybody. I am David Bulova. I represent the 11th House District, which is the city of Fairfax and parts of central Fairfax County, including George Mason University, Fair Oaks, and Oakton.
Mr. Chair, I think that's every member that's present.
All right. Welcome to everybody there. I'm going to start out with a few simple ground rules that will help our hearing today go smoothly, and at the same time, give everyone the opportunity to be heard in a reasonable amount of time. First, when you signed up to speak, you received an email with a Zoom link for the hearing. As of this morning, the House Appropriations and Senate Finance and Appropriations Committees websites were updated to include a listing of each speaker who signed up to speak along with a number. That's the order in which you will speak. Staff will, from time to time, call out those numbers along with a name from the sign-up list to give you an idea of how far we are down the list. If you are not present at your time to speak for whatever reason, then you will be allowed to speak at the end if you are present in the Zoom meeting at that time. As we get closer to your number, staff We'll move you from the waiting area into the actual meeting room so that you can speak. However, please do not speak until your name is called. Remember to unmute yourself as soon as your name is called to minimize transition time. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. That way we can all be heard in a reasonable amount of time and no one will be left out. We will stay in the meeting until the last speaker that had signed up has had the opportunity to be heard. Please remember, near the end of your 3 minutes, a timer will sound. Please wrap up your comments at that time. After you have completed speaking, staff will move you back into the waiting room, waiting area, where you can continue to watch the hearing or leave altogether. Finally, to hear as many issues as possible and to be respectful of the time of others in the audience, we ask that you avoid duplication when testifying. I can tell you from years of experience that repeating the same testimony on the same issue can be counterproductive. If there are several people speaking from the same group, we encourage you to have one spokesperson. You can always mention how many other members of your group are listening to show your group's support for your cause. Not only does that save time for everyone, but it's much more effective when making your case. That's pretty much it. We're glad to be here, and I hope that each one of us will learn something new today, something that we hadn't thought about before. That's a big reason of why we're here. Now we will call out the first speaker, who is number 1 on the list. The number 1 on the list is Angelo Wider.
Yes, good morning, and thank you all for being here, and Happy New Year. My name is Angelo Wider. I am the immediate past chair for the board of the Virginia Association of Community Service Boards. I also serve on the Loudoun County Community Service Board as their chair. I am here to speak to the needs of individuals with behavioral health conditions and developmental disabilities. The VACSB asks that the House and the Senate preserve the investments in the public safety net that are included in the governor's introduced budget and requests that the following items be added. Workforce development. VACSB is requesting $21 million in ongoing funds for workforce development to act as a mechanism for recruitment and retention in the short term and to develop a pipeline for staff in the long term. The workforce development package includes funds for clinical supervision hours, student loan replacement, scholarship programs, and paid internships. VACSB's other budget priorities are critical for meeting demand and will help with workforce development as well. These are STEP VA inflation, $3.3 million to account for inflation in the cost to deliver services associated with the remaining 6 steps of STEP VA. A quality build out of these community-based services is critical to reducing utilization of more costly and intensive levels of care, such as state hospital beds. Substance use disorder services, $17.2 million for a Medicaid reimbursement rate increase for substance use disorder services. Increasing the reimbursement rate can allow CSBs to increase staff compensation, thereby helping the CSBs to recruit and retain workforce for substance use disorder treatment services. Early intervention services, $4.7 million in FY25 and $6 million in FY26 for early intervention services. This increase in funds is needed to meet the needs of infants and toddlers with developmental delays. Services provided during the first 3 years of a child's life have the greatest impact on a child's health and developmental trajectory. Developmental disability waiver services. The VACSB requests budget language directing DMAS to conduct a rebase of the DD waiver services reimbursement rates prior to each biennial budget. Rates are regularly reviewed and are key to developing a strong provider community. And lastly, underage cannabis use prevention program. 2.5 million for CSBs to begin implementing underage cannabis use prevention campaigns. CSBs are slated to receive a portion of the revenue from cannabis sales once retailers open. But with retail sales on hold, CSBs cannot access this critical funding stream. Thank you for hearing me out, and Happy New Year to all.
Thank you very much. And number 2 speaker we have is Anthony Nunes.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Anthony Nunez. I'm the CEO of INF Robotics, Virginia C Corporation that operates in the elder care space, and I'm currently doing business right now as INF Care. I'm also a member of the Northern Virginia Aging Network, and I'm here to talk to you about the importance of the auxiliary grant and the personal needs allowance for older adults in the Commonwealth. There's only one low-income public source in Virginia for assisted living. It's called the auxiliary grant. If you need assisted living care, if you need a room, meals, homemaking service, help with activities of daily living, 24-hour supervision, and medication management, the average cost in Virginia right now is over $5,000. It's even higher if you're in Northern Virginia. Medicare does not pay for assisted living. And while some states use Medicaid to cover the costs, Virginia does not. If you are low income and in need of care, you're stuck. The auxiliary grant is the only way for you to get some assistance. And currently, it offers over $1,600 per month if you're in Virginia. And this is way below the cost of providing the care. As such, most providers simply can't afford to offer auxiliary beds. Therefore, there's a severe shortage of affordable assisted living beds. The Senate and House Budget Committee decided to increase the auxiliary grant rate to over $2,000 a month beginning January of this year. But we must do more for low-income older adults, as this new rate does not cover the cost of assisted living services. NBAN is looking for the statewide auxiliary grant rate to be raised to $2,500 a month, as this was recommended by the Joint Commission on Healthcare last year and also included in the Senate Finance Committee's recommendation in February. We at NBAN are also requesting the personal needs allowance to be raised to $115 per month. This is an increase from $87 per month, which it currently is. And this was included in reports by the Senate Finance Committee and the House Appropriations Committee in February as well. We all have older family members, older parents, older loved ones we care about. Let's continue to work together to make Virginia a blue zone where older adults can thrive later in life. We thank the General Assembly for their work and progress so far in this issue, and we look forward to their continued support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next we have is number 3, Brent Hunsinger.
Yes, hello. My name is Brent Hunsinger. I'm representing Friends of the Rappahannock today. I appreciate the opportunity to
got your picture on
you. Our list of budget priorities this coming General Assembly includes the following. The first would be to add $600,000 to capitalize the Environmental Literacy Fund, which is a fund that we hope to have established in this coming General Assembly that would help any public school or community partner with creating or improving school district environmental literacy plans and to support teacher professional development opportunities or student environmental education programs that align with the content and objectives of the Virginia Environmental Literacy Plan. Number 2 would be to increase from $250,000
We've lost the volume.
All right.
Hold on, I'm trying to get him back.
Okay.
Actually. I think he should be back now. Mr. Hunsinger, can you hear us?
Yes, hello?
Yes, you were frozen for a little bit there, but glad to have you
Yeah.
back. So
I apologize.
not your fault, your fault. So
Okay. To increase from 250,000 to 1 million, currently in the governor's budget, competitive grants for meaningful watershed educational experiences. So we would ask for an increase from 250,000 to $1 million. FOR would also request that we remove the requirement that it be for Chesapeake Bay meaningful watershed educational experiences and expand the opportunity to be Commonwealth wide, not just in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, to allow all students in the Commonwealth access to those funds, to apply for those funds. We also request $2 million a year in funding in the biennium for a Menhaden localized depletion study to study whether or not Menhaden are being depleted in the Chesapeake Bay and in the Commonwealth's waters. We also ask for $150,000 to capitalize the oyster shell recycling fund. And finally, we would ask that you retain the $4 million for the Virginia Conservation Assistance Program in fiscal year 2025 and add $4 million into fiscal year 2026. We thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today and look forward to working with you in the upcoming General Assembly. Thank you very much.
all right, thank you very much for testifying. Next is number 4, Brian Misner.
Good morning. My name is Brian Meisner, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Virginia Emergency Management Association, a statewide organization that represents the Commonwealth's professional emergency managers. When your constituents dial 911, they expect that their call will be answered and first responders will be dispatched to their emergency. But what do first responders do when the nature or severity of that emergency exceeds their resources? Typically, they call their emergency manager. All emergencies start and end at the local level, and when a disaster overwhelms the capabilities of a particular locality or region of the Commonwealth, we rely on the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, or VDEM, to coordinate requests for assistance, allocate resources, and request mutual aid from other states or direct support from the federal government. The governor's proposed budget included funding for just one of 9 agency budget requests submitted by VDEM, funding for the Disaster Logistics Coordination Center. Born out of necessity during the COVID-19 pandemic, this facility is used to store, cross-dock, and distribute emergency supplies like shelf-stable meals and water, generators, emergency shelter kits, and communications equipment to restore connectivity with impacted areas. While the association appreciates the consideration of this initiative, it has been proposed as non-recurring funding. We believe this facility needs to be permanently funded, as most localities do not have the financial means or physical space to maintain their own disaster supplies. Furthermore, uncertainty of long-term funding, and thus storage space, limits VDEM's ability to effectively develop commodity rotation and equipment replacement cycles for these critical emergency supplies. The association respectfully requests that the General Assembly fully fund the 8 remaining agency budget requests from VDEM. Due to the continuing decline in post 9/11 federal homeland security funding and the wind down of federal pandemic aid, the Commonwealth's emergency management capabilities are at risk of falling behind neighboring states. Of particular concern, the EOC readiness and technology package requested by VDEM would provide general fund support of known gaps in capability within the Commonwealth's most critical disaster response and recovery functions that all localities rely upon. As professional emergency managers, we believe that these requests are necessary to ensure that the basic human needs of disaster survivors can be met in a timely manner. If you have additional questions about how our members would utilize these budget requests to meet the needs of your constituents during a disaster, please reach out to the association through Mr. Rob Bohannon, the Director of Government Affairs at Hunt & Andrews Kurth in Richmond. Thank you for your service to the Commonwealth, and we look forward to meeting with many of you during our upcoming lobby day on January 23rd. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Now we will move on to number 5, Cheryl Binkley.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. My name is Cheryl Gibbs Binkley. I'm a retired educator and community member, the chair of the Fairfax County Retired Educators and FEA Government Relations Team, and the newly elected president of For Public Education. The proposed budget is nothing less than an all-out attack on the children and families of Virginia. Though there is no real part of it that's okay, there's a particular example that reveals just how bereft of care for Virginians this budget is. That provision would use funds meant for school construction, the literary fund, to pay for teacher retirement, thereby allowing a reduction in regular state fund contributions to the VRS to the tune of a $300 million cut, while also reducing funding meant to make sure our students have warm, dry, safe places to learn. Already, the newest VRS hybrid plan does not meet the needs of Virginia employees, and to further destabilize and cut funding for the system creates a looming disaster. Governor Youngkin's plan to undermine and dismantle public schools is never more evident than in the plan that would allow our community buildings to fall into further decline. The spirit of the governor's budget would simultaneously destabilize and cheat public employees of the career benefits they invested and abandon providing localities with the support to assure they can replace the leaky school roof or shore up the foundations of our aging buildings. There are many other egregious cuts, abandoned promises, and profitable initiatives to siphon money from Virginia's children and families in this budget, but none reveal more explicitly the governor's lack of care for the needs of parents and their families than this one. Don't be fooled. The guidance of the JLARC report and the voices you will hear today from VEA and Fund Our Schools can help guide you. It's up to you as our legislators and caretakers of Virginia's budget to keep faith with Virginia families. And thank you for the work you are about to do in advance.
Thank you for your testimony. And we will now move on to number 6, Dennis Finley.
Hi, good morning. I'm Dennis Finley from McLean. My 28-year-old son has intellectual disabilities. He has a Medicaid-funded waiver and lives in a group home in Falls Church. My son loves being out in the world, one that he understands in his own unique way. However, one thing he understands, just like you and me, is that working at a job gives meaning to life. He craves to have a meaningful, part-time, life-fulfilling vocational type job. However, he can't do this right now because his mom, my wife, died 14 years ago. Social Security requires that disabled adult children be given survivor benefits, SSDI, when a parent retires or dies. When this occurs, disabled individuals who rely on a Medicaid-funded DD waiver can find themselves dangerously close to Virginia's Medicaid income limit each month. This is my son's situation and why he can't earn any job income. Now, for other disabled individuals with a waiver, their Social Security survivor benefits take them over the Medicaid income cap, and they lose their waiver entirely, including all of their life-sustaining supports and services. I'm asking you to support a bill from Delegate Irene Shin to fix this problem. Her bill would allow parent survivor income, SSDI, to be disregarded for Medicaid eligibility, but to continue having it pay out for copays to the state and care providers. You might be wondering, is Virginia allowed to do this? The answer, of course, is yes. In 2019, Congress enacted the Sustaining Excellence in Medicaid Act, which prompted the issuance of new rules by the Centers for Medicaid and Medicaid Services in 2021. These rules give states new options and flexibility to customize income and resource disregards for individuals eligible for Medicaid-funded waiver services, free from the previous federal mandate that required a change made for one Medicaid program had to be applied to all Medicaid programs. That is a sea change. It appears we have a win-win situation. That is 4 wins with Delegate Shin's bill, and this impacts the budget. Disabled individuals with a waiver may now be able to have a meaningful life job. Others who would have lost their waiver entirely upon the death of a parent won't. The state gets increased federal dollars with the pass-through of additional survivor benefits from Social Security. And care providers would get some of these additional dollars as well. Disability advocates are now 5 years into trying to fix this problem. Now is the time. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to seeing you in Richmond.
Thank you very much. Now we're up to number 7, Edward Feely.
Good morning. I'm Edward Feely. I'm representing the Prince William Commission on Aging. Every year, the commission prepares their budget and legislative priorities. Those should have been provided by the Prince William Legislative Affairs Office, and I did attach them to the website. The items have been grouped into 6 topic areas that support our older adults, persons with disabilities, their families, and caregivers. The first topic area is housing. Under housing, fund the Virginia Housing Trust Fund Homeless Reduction Grant Program. The Commonwealth should provide a source of adequate revenue to operate the Housing Trust Fund Homeless Reduction Grant Program. Next, expand the use of the Virginia Housing Trust Fund and local government trust fund to enable rental assistance programs. The next area is Medicaid. Continue Medicaid expansion to include dental and vision services as supported by the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association, which funds the Commonwealth match for federal funding. Increase medical home and community-based waiver personal maintenance allowance. In 2023, the Virginia personal maintenance allowance monthly amount is approximately $1,500. This limits access to the program. The next area is caregivers. Fund the expansion of services which provide caregivers and family members in personal care, education, and information. And expansion should also include kinship care and standardized caregiver training. Resource the development and maintenance of standardized guardian training. While public guardians receive ongoing training, private guardians are not provided with training, and statewide training is not available. Next, fund the expansion of Project Lifesaver. Project Lifesaver's mission is to use state-of-the-art technology in assisting those who care for persons with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia. The next area is transportation. Support funding of the Omni Ride Potomac Rappahannock Transportation Commission's strategic plan for transportation, which enables persons-centered support for activities of daily living and reduction of social isolation. Fund sustainability and assisted transportation services to provide vouchers for local commercial transportation to be used by older adults and persons with disabilities. Fund the expansion of paratransit service and Metro Zone programs. And next is exploitation of older adults. Continue funding of adult protective services, which offers victims of abuse, neglect, and exploitation a range of services. Next, provide provide supplemental state funding for Older Americans Act education programs for crime prevention services, victim assistance programs, and prevention of abuse. Commission on Aging supports the request of Prince William County Services for funding and support of the Crisis Receiving Center. Thank you very much. Happy.
Mr. Feely, are you there?
I think he concluded.
Oh, okay, all right. Next is number 8, Eileen McCartan.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Eileen McCartan. I am the Executive Director of the Northern Virginia Resource Center for Deaf and Hard of Hearing Persons. I'm also a member of the Northern Virginia Aging Network. I personally have a profound hearing loss myself, fortunate to have cochlear implants that were paid for by private insurance. I want to thank you for enabling the auto captioning today for this hearing. I'd also would like to suggest that for accommodations for people who use American Sign Language, that there be an email address rather than a phone number and a longer period of time before one can make the request. So I wanted to speak today about hearing loss, which is the third most prevalent chronic health condition facing older adults after arthritis and hypertension. And the Northern Virginia Aging Network would like to, has a continuing concern about the requirement or the lack of the requirement that Medicaid cover the cost of hearing aids. Properly fitting hearing aids can mitigate the impact of social isolation and cognitive decline that result from not being able to participate in activities of daily living. And hearing loss is very common in older adults. The recent research indicates that people who do not address their hearing loss have a 42% increased risk of dementia. So we feel that Medicaid covering hearing aids would be beneficial for the population who are aging. Medicare does not cover the cost of hearing aids or exams for fitting hearing aids, although some Medicare Advantage plans do. But our goal here is to ask the Virginia Medicaid cover the cost of hearing aids. And we urge the General Assembly to provide Medicaid funds for hearing aids, including the purchase of appropriate aids and professional and audiological follow-up services necessary for evaluation and follow-up care. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you very much. We appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Next is number 9, Erica Wood.
Good morning. I'm Erica Wood, and I am representing the Northern Virginia Aging Network, or NVAN. A 2024 NVAN legislative and budget priority is guardian training. We're asking the General Assembly to require basic guardian training and to direct the Department of Aging and Rehabilitative Services, or DARS, to develop such training at a cost of approximately $260,000. Now, think about it. What would happen to you if you could no longer make decisions on your own and the court appointed someone, a guardian, to make your decisions for you? A guardian could be a family member or a professional. Family members generally have never been a guardian before, so it's a new role for them. According to the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, some 12,000 adults are under guardianship or conservatorship in Virginia. Guardians make decisions about where you live, who can visit you, and what kinds of health care you get. Guardians are fiduciaries with a very high duty of care and with accountability to the court. Guardians need a lot of skills and knowledge. They need to know their duties and responsibilities under the law and how to complete their annual reports. They need to know basics about aging and disability services, healthcare, bioethics, public benefits, mental health, and long-term care. They need to know how to best communicate with someone with cognitive impairments, how to maximize the person's voice, and how to respond to crises. JLARC recommended that guardians be required to take training, and a growing number of states do require guardian training, often through online videos. Our request comes at a small cost with a huge positive potential effect on the lives of vulnerable Virginians. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Erica. Now we're at number 10, George Rogers.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe he's present.
All right. Well, we can move along to number 11, Grace Reef.
Good morning. Thank you for holding this hearing virtually today because I am totally sick, but I still wanted to testify. I'm speaking on behalf of Childcare Aware Virginia. We are a statewide nonprofit that works with families to find childcare and works with childcare providers to improve the quality of care. Virginia's economy is much better today than it was a year ago, and that's great news. But there are more than 121,000 parents who are not working today because they can't find childcare. They are caring for kids who aren't in childcare. That's from October, the most recent Census Bureau Pulse survey. For household economic stability, for economic recovery and growth throughout the state, parents need access to childcare. Without childcare, it's really hard to work. Parents can work it out for a while, but it's not sustainable. Statewide, there's a staffing shortage in childcare. What this means is that some programs have waiting lists because they just don't have the staff to operate at their full capacity. Other programs are choosing not to serve infants and toddlers because you need more staff at those younger ages in order to fill the rooms. Ask any parent. Infant and toddler care is the hardest kind of childcare to find today, and that's if you can afford it. Like other states, Virginia can authorize the operation of substitute pools in communities. This would help childcare programs fill short-term vacancies when staff are sick or call out for other reasons, and also help temporarily bridge the gap in staff vacancies. This is the way the substitute system works in K-12 public schools. But because of the way the background check process works in childcare, a substitute pool is hard to operate because a sub literally needs a background check for each program they work in, a separate check for each facility. What that currently involves is anyone who wants to be a sub needs to stand at the live scan machine for 20 minutes to take 10 separate sets of prints, 10 prints of the same person. That enables the state to share a clearance letter with each of the 10 programs that might want to participate in a sub pool. At about $60 each, that's like $600. Childcare Aware Virginia would like to work with communities to have a pool of individuals who are background check cleared and trained so they can fill in as substitutes. This would help keep programs open, it would help reduce waiting lists, and more parents would have childcare choices in their community. We can do this, but we need flexibility from the General Assembly in order to put this common sense subpool concept to work. Thank you for listening today, and thank you for holding this hearing virtually. Have a great day.
Thank you. We will, and thank you for testifying. Next is number 12, Heather Jones.
And Mr. Chairman, I don't believe she is present either.
All right. Number 13 is James Gillespie.
Good morning. I'm Jim Gillespie, City of Fairfax representative on the Fairfax Falls Church Community Services Board. Our services extend to residents in Fairfax County and the cities of Fairfax and Falls Church, reaching nearly 22,000 individuals with challenges related to mental health, substance use disorder, and developmental disabilities. As the largest CSB in Virginia, we welcome the governor's proposal of a $138 million investment in the behavioral health system and the governor's goal of eliminating the Priority 1 waiting list for developmental disability waiver slots. We look forward to working together to continue addressing the gaps in our state's care for those with behavioral health needs. A multifaceted approach to addressing the behavioral health workforce crisis is critical. Strategies include enhancing salaries to match the market rates and offering student loan repayment to attract more professionals. Additionally, streamlining administrative processes and reducing regulatory burdens will strengthen the behavioral health workforce. A key initiative is to modernize and streamline data management and auditing processes for CSBs. We should all remember that without improved workforce capacity through increased recruitment and retention, we cannot implement expanded services. Workforce issues must also be considered when decisions are made about how to eliminate the DD waiver waitlist. While we welcome the ability to offer services to more families, the dynamic and unpredictable nature of the Priority 1 waitlist in Fairfax presents challenges. With nearly a third of Virginia's Priority 1 individuals in Fairfax, the process for initiating waiver services must allow our CSB and the service providers to manage the expected increase in demand. Lastly, targeted regional funding to increase community capacity and help address the state psychiatric hospital bed crisis is critical. Immediate needs include expanding crisis intervention facilities in Region 2. For a population the size of Northern Virginia, 103 short-term crisis beds and 121 23-hour crisis recliners are needed to augment acute inpatient beds and mobile crisis teams. Community-based investments are also needed to address the growing demand for youth behavioral health services and the opioid crisis. Our youth are facing unprecedented challenges and require accessible behavioral health support, including medication-assisted treatment and other mental health programs in schools and communities. Thank you for your efforts and continued partnership as we work to ensure a community-based system of care for the most vulnerable in our community.
Thank you for testifying. We are now on to number 14, Janelle Gilmer.
Good morning to everybody here at the General Assembly. First off, I'd like to say thank you for having me to speak and for giving me the time. And again, my name is Janelle Gilmer. I'm with the ARC. I belong to to the Arc of Greater Prince William, where I also work. I'm a person with developmental disability, and I am part of other ARC chapters. I just want to say thank you so much for the consideration of bringing into effect, hopefully, the budget proposal for the DD waiver and the priority wait list. We urge you to please take more priority and hopefully working throughout the course of this time to make it a top of the list need to end the priority 1 for those who are on the waiting list and also those new coming to the waiting list. I'm also a person, sorry, no, what I'm saying is as a person who is disabled, I'm looking into service for the waiver and already trying to get into the process. It's very important, someone who now is saying as well, that we do this because for those who may need service that are aging out of the system, that are getting older and do work with disability, there are services that we need to continue on with the onset of continuing in our growth of life, in our development, onset of early childhood and adult life. We also asked for in the budget with this, with the waiver process for the DD providers, it's very urgent that they are getting the income they need to offer the service as they feel like they're not getting the adequate income. Me as a self-advocate, I'm advocating for them as I work with those who are DSPs, direct support professional, and direct care of those each and every day during the week. That's their main job. They take a lot of initiative and responsibility to providing this life like yours to them, as we want a life like yours. And I want to again say I support this the Arc of Virginia legislative agenda. I always take pride into doing that, the know of the legislative agenda and with everything we do with that, and just being a part of knowing more about within the ARC and how we can support those with other varying disabilities and abilities, not just disability. We are very able. It's not just our disability that underlies who and what we are and how we do what we do. We are very capable of just doing much, and if you can give us, like I said, the waiver, that's going to show you in time all that we can do in using this service given to us, because we are definitely deserving of this. Again, I want to say thank you for your time, and also it's just giving me the time to speak and supporting the ARC of the Arcs mission. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. And we are now on to number 15, Jessica Roberts.
Hello, thank you so much for having me here. I am writing to urge your support for the creation of a wildlife corridor and crossing grant fund with an appropriation of $5 million to fund connectivity projects aligned with Virginia's recently published Wildlife Corridor Action Plan. As a resident of Arlington, Virginia, a holder of a doctorate in wildlife conservation that I got from George Mason University, and a regular travel along I-66 and I-81, I all too frequently encounter wildlife vehicle conflict personally and by seeing carcasses along the road. Also, one of my dear friends almost lost his life to deer vehicle conflict on I-66 within this past year. I also worked for the Wildlife Center of Virginia, a wildlife rehabilitation organization, and I saw firsthand the consequences of poor connectivity. This has serious consequences for Virginia's native wildlife. Also, through my job and holding a doctorate in wildlife conservation, I became aware that Virginia is in the top 10 states for wildlife vehicle conflict, which is staggering, of which our very own Loudoun County is the top county in the state for deer vehicle conflict. This puts so many Virginian lives at risk. I was pleased, though, to read the recently published Wildlife Corridor Action Plan. However, where is the funding to prioritize and create these crossings and corridors to reduce this conflict? The establishment of this fund would be vital for the implementation of infrastructure projects aimed at reducing wildlife vehicle conflict, preserving Virginia's rich biodiversity, fostering climate resilience, and saving Virginia lives. As you deliberate on the budget, I would like to bring to your attention the following critical facts from the Virginia Transportation Research Council. They had a notable example of success in Virginia with the implementation of directional fencing along I-64 to guide deer to 2 existing underpasses. Following the installation of this fencing, deer vehicle collisions in the area decreased by an impressive 92%. The return on investment for wildlife crossings was evident, as demonstrated by the cost savings of $2.3 million per site within just 1.8 years of installation of these directional fencing, which is incredible. And this is a relatively inexpensive way to prevent this wildlife vehicle conflict. Furthermore, it is critical to emphasize that state funding plays a pivotal role in leveraging federal dollars for these initiatives. By investing in wildlife corridors and crossing projects, Virginia can take a leadership role in promoting sustainable transportation infrastructure and wildlife conservation. Let's transform Virginia from an example of high, horrible wildlife vehicle conflict to an example of high connectivity for driver safety and biodiversity maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. All right, number 16, Joan Porta.
Good morning. I'm Joan Port, President of the League of Women Voters of Virginia, and the League appreciates this opportunity. And we request the following considerations during these budget discussions. With regards to affordable housing, while the needs are rising throughout the Commonwealth, there are no increases for this in the proposed budget. It is necessary for us to have a steady supply of affordable housing to remain competitive. In the interest of time, we just heard about childcare, and we agree. This budget does include some investment to sustain the current number of subsidized childcare slots, but it does not account for growth and would require a wait list. The League wholeheartedly supported Virginia remaining in RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, but in this budget, climate policies are severely underfunded or not funded at all. $0 are allocated for the electric vehicle rebate that the General Assembly passed in 2020. $0 to replace funding from RGGI for low-income energy efficiency programs, which will cost us many good jobs, especially when combined with the cuts in affordable housing and energy bills and pollution reduction. There's only $100 million allocated for flood resilience in 2025 and nothing in 2026. Climate change is a reality. Again, we are encouraged to see some behavioral health initiatives one time. We've heard from someone already on behavioral health, so I will limit my comments. Regarding education, however, the standards of quality need to be fully funded. The General Assembly needs to make a permanent commitment to fund school construction, and teacher salaries should at least be at the national average. Average teacher salaries in Virginia are $10,000 less than the national average. Teacher vacancies at the start of 2023 were nearly double those in 2020. Funding for school-based mental health providers should be available and not just on a one-time basis. The funding gap per classroom between rural and poorer communities and the more urban and richer communities should be balanced. And frankly, I'm a resident of Arlington, and I find it embarrassing that it is so easy to raise money up here and not in other areas, and that needs to be addressed. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
All right. All right. Thank you, Joan. We're now moving on to number 17, John Kelly.
Mr. Kelly, I think you need to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you. We just started hearing you now.
I apologize. You know, technology is always an issue, for me. Anyway, my name is John Kelly. I actually live in Baltimore, Maryland. So I'm sure I'm unique in that I'm probably the only out-of-state speaker here. I'm here to speak to you about my son, Patrick Kelly, who lives in Fairfax, Virginia. Patrick Kelly has Down syndrome. He has lived in Fairfax since 2013. He was very fortunate to be able to attend George Mason University and the George Mason Life Program, which is a college life experience for children with disabilities. Patrick loves living in the Commonwealth of Virginia and specifically Fairfax. Patrick works 2 different jobs. He works 31 hours a week. So he's, able to do well, if you will. I'm here to speak regarding the issue of DD waiver income eligibility and the ability to raise that waiver, to a higher income level. Patrick works 31 hours a week. As I said, he works for giant food stores 2 days a week, and he works for the U.S. House of Representatives Energy and Commerce Committee 3 days a week. He loves his jobs. He loves being independent. He loves doing everything that a regular kid would do. I would venture to bet you he has a better social life than all of us combined. Virginia is a great state to be for a person with disability. People with disabilities want to work and are able to work, but finding that it is hard to keep jobs and stay under that income cap. I urge you, if you can, to raise that income cap. Allow people with disabilities to help themselves. They're willing and able to do it in many cases. People are happy and willing to pay the copay to stay in Medicare, which protects their services and saves the state of Virginia money, since the state of Virginia keeps that copay money. Again, it's a benefit for Virginia. It's not costing money. It's bringing money in, further money in to Virginia through the copay. Again, allow people to help themselves. They need a little additional help. When parents pass away, as a previous speaker had mentioned, oftentimes their Social Security impacts their ability to hold and retain jobs. Again, I would urge you to raise that limit so that just because a young man or young lady's parent passes away, they are not put at a disability to help themselves. Allow people. So what I'm asking you is to allow people with DD waivers to enroll in Medicaid Works. This keeps them working and brings the copays into Virginia. This will be a budget amendment. Don't count parent retirement benefits against people in deciding if they're eligible for a waiver. it was mentioned earlier by a previous speaker, Delegate Irene Shin has proposed a bill that will solve this, help it. And I urge you all to vote for it and be part of the solution as you have in so many cases in the past. I find it unique that Virginia is one of only 4 areas that is a commonwealth. And when I researched just what a commonwealth was, I found that it reflects the historical roots and the idea of a commonwealth or a community founded for the common good. Virginia has that unique distinction, and I urge you to continue to try to work on behalf of people with disabilities, helping themselves and thus helping the state of Virginia. Thank you for your kind attention, and I'd be happy to come and visit with any of you anytime that you would like. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your testimony. And next is number 18, Joyce Bunbury Graves.
Mr. Chair, we're having trouble letting her in the room, so you might want to go to the next one and we'll come back to her when we can.
Okay, let me know when to do that.
We'll do that.
All right, number 19 is Julia Richardson.
Mr. Chair, I don't see her in the room, so.
All right. Number 20 is Julius Reynolds.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Julius Reynolds. I'm the chair of Loudoun County SEIU Virginia 512, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. As Polonius said in Shakespeare's play Hamlet, soul is the brevity of wit, so I won't be before you long as I express my priorities for SEIU for the upcoming year. We have 5 priorities for SEIU at this legislative session. One is allowing local governments to pass critical displaced worker protections. 2, empowering local control over county and city decision-making. 3, paid family and medical leave for all working people. And the last 2, which are near and dear to my heart, a minimum wage of at least $15 an hour for all workers immediately. I think $15 an hour is a good conversation starter, but as you know, the cost of living here in the DMV area is exorbitant. And I think $15 an hour, while it may be a good starting point, I think we need to start looking at somewhere between $20 and $25 an hour for working families here in the DMV area. And lastly, the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart is collective bargaining rights for all public employees in Virginia. Here in Loudoun County, we have just been given a go-ahead to have an election for collective bargaining here in Loudoun County. Richmond has just passed collective bargaining, and then our capital and Fairfax and Prince William will probably follow suit here in the near future. But here in Loudoun County, we're asking that there be a board created so that when collective bargaining is created, that we won't have to fight through some of the minutiae that we had to fight through to get to an election here in Loudoun County for collective bargaining. I ask rhetorically, who could be against compassion, dignity, and respect and humanity in the workplace? Those are everything that collective bargaining seeks to do within the workplace for workers, not just for workers, but for their supervisors and for staff. It not only improves the working conditions at each respective work site, but it also improves the quality of life, not just for the workers, but for all citizens within their respective county. That is all that I have. I wish that we have a good legislative session here coming up, and hope that you take these priorities under consideration. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Next is number 21, Karen Harrison.
Ms. Harrison, if you could unmute yourself, you can talk now.
Should we move along?
Yep, we can check back with her in a minute.
Okay, number 22, Karen Smith.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having this hearing and for the past General Assembly's support of developmental disability issues in the Commonwealth. We really appreciate it. We were very pleased when we heard from the governor that he wants to end the Priority 1 Medicaid waiver wait list and did so through a budget action. We trust the entire General Assembly will want to do the same. We were very pleasantly surprised, but very grateful for doing that. But our big concern is that if we have that many people that are going to be needing services, we also need to have the capacity for providers to provide good services. And presently, our current rates do not support that, nor do we have enough providers. So we need to have the rates looked at, and the rates need to be increased in order for us to take on the additional people and the people we presently serve. We also are wishing that the new waivers, once they come on board, that they have up to a year to find services because of this capacity issue. You know, our workforce issue has not changed. We still have a very critical workforce issue. We also support the other issues of the ARC of Virginia and are very active with them and advocating for those services that they are requesting. This year, 2024, will mark our 60th anniversary. We came from very humble beginnings of 8 families needing education for their children. And here, 60 years later, we're advocating that we still need more support from the Commonwealth of Virginia. We know we have many supporters, but I would also like to thank Senator Barker for his previous support of our issues and hope that new folks that have become elected will be true advocates too for people with developmental disabilities. And again, thank you today for your public hearing.
Thank you, Karen. Next we have number 23 is Katie Akbar.
Does the General Assembly wish to represent its constituents' interests or foreigners? I'll assume it's the former, and thank you for your service. I'm a small business owner and Democratic Party activist in Fairfax County. I'm here to request a budget amendment to defund the Virginia Israel Advisory Board, VIAB, to relieve taxpayer burden and create a more even playing field for Virginia businesses and historically disempowered Virginia communities for 3 reasons. Number 1, competitive disadvantage for Virginia businesses. Instead of representing Virginia citizens like other advisory boards in Virginia, VIAB represents their competitors. VIAB's website states, the Virginia Israel Advisory Board is a government agency that helps Israeli companies build and grow their U.S. operations in Virginia. VIAB acts as a chamber of commerce for a foreign state, not an advisory board for Virginians. By contrast, the African American Advisory Board serves the interests of the African American community of Virginia, and the other advisory boards serve their communities as well. Number 2, taxpayer subsidy for one advisory board only. VIAB's sole concern is with the economic interests of a particular foreign country, yet our taxpayers subsidize its activities. Any group wanting to bring in foreign development should not be called an advisory board under the current definition and should have close oversight to make sure there are no conflicts of interest with Virginia businesses, the environment, and our values. At this time, when according to many reputable scholars, Israel is conducting a genocidal campaign against the Palestinian people, Israel does not represent the values of Virginia voters. Furthermore, VIAB receives over $245,000 of taxpayer money and receives free office space in the Pocahontas building. By contrast, the members of the other advisory boards receive only travel expenses to and from Richmond, creating a profound disadvantage for community groups that represent already disadvantaged local communities. Number 3, unequal access for Virginian interests to Commonwealth incentives. VIAB's primary purpose is to obtain state incentive grants and loans to arrange economic development projects between Virginia municipalities and Israeli businesses. As a Virginia small business owner, I have no such access. Moreover, the other boards engage in no such activity. As such, VIAB's Commonwealth funding is fundamentally unfair to Virginia business owners like me, as well as to the true advisory boards who in fact do serve local interests. In conclusion, the General Assembly's purpose is to represent the legislative interests of the people of the Commonwealth. Anything that disadvantages citizen businesses like mine and citizen groups like the true advisory boards does not deserve taxpayer support. That's why now is the right time to dismantle this unfairly well-fed swamp creature.
All right. We
Mr.
now have,
Chairman,
yes,
number 18, Joyce Bunbury Graves has joined the room if you want to.
okay. Go ahead, Joyce.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you fine.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Renee Bumbray Graves. I'm a home care worker from Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm a mother, grandmother, and a taxpayer, and I'm a proud union member of SEIU 512. I'm here today to speak in support of quality home care and good union jobs for all care workers and Virginians. Home care workers like myself provide essential care to older adults and people with disabilities, keeping them healthy and safe at home. Despite the essential labor we provide, we're still not respected, protected, and paid like we should be. We make poverty wages without health care or other benefits. No matter where we come from or what we do for a living or the color of our skin, Virginians working people want the same things: paid leave, family sustaining wages of at least $15 an hour, quality health care, justice at work and in other communities, and outstanding democracy where we can all participate. The best way to achieve these goals is to ensure that every hardworking Virginian has the right to join a union and collectively bargain for a better future. That's why working people and legislature partnered in 2020 and 2021 to pass laws that put us on a path to $15, enable collective bargaining for tens of thousands of local government workers, and establish critical protections for workers on the front line. We must continue our efforts so SEIU's legislative priorities for 2024 session would do that. They include collective bargaining rights for all public employees, including home care workers, which allows workers a seat at the table to improve pay, benefits, and working conditions for all people, and to close racial and gender pay gaps systematically. Allowing local governments to pass a critical displaced workers protections. Frontline workers shouldn't lose their jobs simply because a contract changes hands. The General Assembly can protect us against needless job insecurities. Quality home care and good union jobs. The General Assembly needs to ensure a living wage of at least $15, paid leave, and health care for the essential home care workers who support Virginia families and who make all others work possible. Empowering local control over county and city decision-making. The General Assembly needs to allow local governments to build upon the floor for worker standards set by the state and pass policies such as higher minimum wage, stronger procedures, standards, and diversified revenue streams that would lift up hardworking Virginians. Paid family and medical leave for all working people. The General Assembly needs to pass comprehensive paid family and medical leave for all Virginians to ensure just and thriving economy for everyone. Thank you for this opportunity with this virtual hearing.
Thank you for your testimony. We will now go to number 24, Kenneth Nixon.
And Mr. Chairman, he's not present.
Okay. And then we'll go to 25, Leah Harris.
Good morning. My name is Leah Harris, and I'm speaking before you today as a Jewish Virginian and a member of the Virginia Coalition for Human Rights. I'm here to ask for a budget amendment to defund the Virginia Israel Advisory Board, or VIAB, a largely unaccountable body solely representing the interests of a foreign government. My first argument for defunding VIAB regards human rights. VIAB's website states that it works with the Israel Ministry of Defense and others to, quote, develop partnerships with leading federal contractors, and that it, quote, brings Israeli defense delegations to Virginia to conduct one-on-one business networking meetings. Why is the Commonwealth funding such activities in the midst of what scholars worldwide agree is a textbook case of genocide in Gaza, with over 22,000 civilians killed by Israel to date, 70% women and children? My second argument regards fairness in foreign direct investment, FDI. In 2017, the General Assembly passed HB 2471 to empower the board of the Virginia Economic Development Program, or VEDP, as a supervisory board. However, in 2018, the chair of VIAB resisted this oversight of the VEDP, and he said, quote, being independent helps us to function without any outside pressures, unquote. This creates a redundancy in the management of foreign direct investment and allows VIAB to evade the important accountability that is built into the VEDP model. Foreign businesses rightly expect fairness and consistency from the Commonwealth in how foreign direct investment is solicited, how opportunity grants and loans are arranged, and performance agreements are enforced. Where is the consistency and fairness when VEDP is the point of contact for businesses from every foreign country except for Israel? VIAB's status as both a state agency arranging economic development projects and as the exclusive agent for Israeli businesses wishing to do business in the Commonwealth represents a glaring conflict of interest. Moreover, given the human rights situation right now, funding its activities during Israel's genocide against Palestinians is a moral stain on our state. There are so many needs in our state, as we've already heard this morning, and VIAB should be defunded to make additional resources available for those needs. And Israeli companies should be subjected to the exact same standards as any other foreign government seeking to do business in the Commonwealth. Thank you so much for your time today.
All right, thank you for your testimony. We're now on number 26, Lynn Blythe.
Yes, hello. Thank you. My name is Lynn Blythe. I live in Summerduck in Fauquier County with my husband and my 33-year-old son, Mark, who has Down syndrome. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. I appreciate the support in the past of members of the General Assembly for people with developmental disabilities. And I want to state up front, I support the entire legislative agenda of the Arc of Virginia, but I'm only going to comment today on areas of particular relevance to our family. And first is one that you've already heard earlier from other speakers, and that is to build provider capacity. My son does have a development, a waiver slot, but one of the services that should be available to him, employment and community transportation, is not. And the reason that service is not available is that there are no providers. I mean, 0 providers in our area. And the last time I checked across the entire Commonwealth, there were only 4 providers of this service. And this service has been supposedly available for the past 4 or 5 years. It's a well-kept secret as to this service. And as best as I can determine, it appears that the only reason this service is not available is because of the complexity of being able to provide the service, coupled with the very low reimbursement rate. None of the 40 CSBs offer this service, 0. And what can be more important to any individual then to have access to transportation that allows them to get to and from a job and to go out into the community to participate as a member of the community. So I hope that that this is something that will be paid particular attention to. The second item I want to bring up is regards to the upcoming changes for people that provide care that are also legally responsible individuals of individuals with disabilities. The changes that are scheduled to go into effect in March of 2024 are absolutely demeaning and unjust to family members that provide care to their loved ones. I don't think I'm making noises there, but I hear a bell or something. But anyway, the changes are demeaning. Families are well aware of the need to have providers that will be available to step in when they are no longer able to provide care. But given the current challenges with finding appropriate care providers, coupled with these upcoming changes, has created tremendous stress and just put barriers in front of families that definitely do not need those barriers. The third thing I want to mention is about developing core services, core essential services, so that individuals can access these services immediately upon the time that they need them. Decades should not have to pass before an individual is able to access services. These solutions
you're over your time. You're over your time now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But thank you very much for your testimony. We'll pay attention to it. So anyway, next is 27, Mary Ann Burke.
And Mr. Chairman, she is not present.
Okay. 28, Mary Braxton.
Hi, good afternoon or good morning, a little bit of both. My name's Mary Braxton. I'm a child care specialist at Child Care Network in Fredericksburg. I work with child care providers daily to promote high quality child care and best practices and safe child care. For more than 25 years, I was a family child care provider, caring for children of all ages in my home. However, now it's my job to help child care providers become licensed and to offer technical assistance and support to child care providers who care for the children in their homes, as well as staff to strengthen the quality of care. Unemployment right now, we know that COVID has had an impact across the board on everything. Unemployment is much lower now than it was a year ago, and it's back to nearly the same rate as it was in January 2020. However, more than 121,000 parents in Virginia are not working because they are caring for children that are not yet in school. A few recommendations I would like for the General Assembly to consider. Child care workers, basically, last year they made a little over $13 an hour last year. Child care is one of the lowest paid occupations, and yet it's the time of the earliest years when a child's brain is developing the fastest, and in fact, building the foundation for all future learning and school readiness. For economic recovery and growth, parents need access to childcare, and because they can't work, they can't get a job, they can't keep a job if they don't have access to the childcare and can afford the childcare. What is needed is a wage supplement strategy to increase the pay for those working in childcare. Parents simply can't afford to pay more. And what I see on the ground is a tight labor market where childcare programs cannot compete against other local businesses to recruit and retain workers and staff. So we urge the General Assembly to develop a wage supplement strategy along with the Department of Education to boost childcare pay either through refundable tax credits, which is what's in place in the state of Louisiana, or by monthly grant supplements, which is what's in place in the state of Maine. Secondly, which it was already mentioned previously by Grace Reef, there is a staffing shortage, and K through 12 teachers, they have substitutes and a substitute pool. The way the background system is in place for childcare, a background check needs to be done for each individual address patient, which then leads to the continuation of the staffing shortage. So we would like that to be considered as a way to look at the background process for childcare. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Number 29, Melissa Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, my name is Melissa Sanders. Thank you for inviting me to present my views before this very important budget committee. I commend the governor for proposing to fund Priority 1 Medicaid waitlist slots. However, the Virginia State Legislature needs to take the next step in funding Priority 2 waitlist slots. Let me tell you a little bit about my situation here. I am 32 years old, with my parents who are well past retirement age. I graduated from Falls Church High School with a regular diploma in 2014 at the age of 22. Currently, I'm receiving social, community, and vocational services at ServiceSource BEST program in Alexandria. Shortly after I was born, I was diagnosed with NF1, rare genetic disorder. People with this condition have wildly differing symptoms. NF has caused tumors to grow in on my body and brain, curvature that spine learning disability, spatial and mental processing difficulty, severe disorders and POTS, ADHD, migraine, headaches, anxiety, low muscle tone, other neurological, heart, and physical problems. I have difficulty organizing things, telling time, find my way around without getting lost, so true. Holding 2 or multi-way conversation, counting money and following 3 or more steps instructions without several prompts. Well, others find it very difficult to read my handwriting and understand my oral communication efforts. Because of my challenges, I am unable to live independently and maintain a job without sustainable support from others. I have been on the wait for many years because of few new slots available each year. Sadly, I'm receiving services for the Fairfax Falls Church Community Services Board, but not to the extent that I would if I had a waiver. My short-term goals are to have a good job, live independently, and in our community supports. However, I cannot qualify to obtain a driver's license because of my seizures. I want access to transportation, can socialize, receive medical care, shop, work, or participate in vocational education because I do not qualify for a driver's license due to my neurological conditions. Most importantly, Daddy, want to help me on this one? Most importantly, I want to live independently, not have to rely on others for my living needs. Having a waiver would make available more support services. I can see my goal. Most important, all of you, please support the legislative priorities of Archival, Virginia, and support priorities too. Thanks for considering my views.
All right, thank you very much for your testimony. Appreciate that. We're now going to move on to number 30, Mike Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, he's not present.
All right, number 31, Nisha Alvarez.
I guess it's almost good afternoon. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. My name is Nisha Alvarez, and I live in Arlington, Virginia. I'm here today to amplify the voice of my son, Gabriel, who's 10 years old and has a diagnosis of autism. Gabriel is a bright, energetic, and creative child with many strengths in the arts and sciences, and generally speaks in 2 to 3 word combinations. As many parents face during the pandemic, we witnessed their children struggle with academic and social regression. My son began to have meltdowns that led to severe self-injurious behaviors and physical aggression directed towards his caregivers. He was on the developmental disabilities waiver waitlist for nearly 5 years, and it took multiple urgent care emergency room visits, hospitalizations, and even having to multiple calls to request crisis intervention team certified officers to be able to elevate him to priority 1 before he was eventually able to get to the DD waiver. I'm really grateful and truly grateful that he received this waiver because it gave us the tools and the support to keep him at home and in the community. However, there are over 15,000 people on the DD waiver waitlist that are not eligible for services while they wait, and wait times could be in the decades. Currently, we have 3,400 people on the waiver waitlist that are actively in crisis and are not eligible for help. These waivers help parents to work and to help the person with the disability with caregiving and support to be able to be as independent as possible. This is a growing crisis in our Commonwealth, and we really need our leaders to make this a priority. Thousands of Virginians can't continue to live in a perpetual state of crisis. As a proud constituent of Virginia, I ask our leaders to 1, fund Governor Youngkin's budget proposal to give the DD waivers to all 3,400 people currently in crisis on the priority 1 waitlist. They urgently need our help. And 2, support the budget amendment to create core services, which are far less expensive care package to help people that are currently on that waitlist out of crisis and ensure that they can get the help that they need. As I mentioned before, the DD waiver has allowed my son to be able to remain at home and in the community. And I know from personal experience that funding these services and support will transform the lives of not only those 3,400 individuals on the waiver waitlist, but also to their families, to their neighbors, community. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your testimony. Next is number 32, Nicole Zupan.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nicole Zupan, and I live in Burke, Virginia. We have a 23-year-old autistic son, Joseph, who's our pride and joy and has been our primary motivation to advocate for more and improved services in Virginia. There's 3 specific topics I'm hoping to touch on, but hopefully I can get to at least 2 of them. The first one is the DD waiver waitlist, already mentioned, and the opportunity to create a package of core services for families that are on that waitlist. Joseph was on the waitlist for 13 years before he finally received the DD waiver this past July 2023. During that time, our family struggled as we tried to balance the responsibilities of parenting, accessing services for Joseph, while also doing our respective jobs. My husband was in diplomatic security with the Department of State, and I was a special ed teacher in Fairfax County Public Schools. Despite regular communication with the Fairfax Falls Church Community Services Board about ongoing health issues for my husband, who has congestive heart failure, and Joseph's first very severe tonic-clonic seizure in 2021, Joseph remained on the wait list. And he was at priority 1 because at that point he had already exited the school system, but he remained priority 1. We couldn't find consistent care once he exited the school system. So I had to resign from my job with Fairfax County Schools at a time when they really needed special ed teachers. But I had to leave because we could not get care. So that's harking back to the issue of not enough providers for services. 6 months after my resignation, Joseph finally got the DD waiver. So we are finally accessing that, but it took 13 years of waiting and me quitting my job before we finally got it. There are dozens of stories like ours. We are not unique, sadly, and many do not have the luxury that we did, that I was allowed to quit my job and we could still manage to stay in Fairfax County. I urge you to fund all 3,400 individuals that are on that priority 1 wait list so that other families don't have to get to such heightened levels of crisis before being considered for a waiver slot. Without this, many individuals that are leaving school or have left the school become unengaged, sitting at home, and they lose whatever skills they've worked for so many years. Additionally, they lose the ability to potentially develop independent lives in their community. So to assist families that remain on the wait list, I would really strongly encourage you to consider developing a package of core services that can assist them while they wait. These services might include companion services, mini grants to pay for leisure activities, ongoing therapy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we will go to number 33, Norm Hall.
Thank you. My name's Norm Hall. I live in Vienna and work for the Fairfax County in the Department of Transportation and serve as a head of the Fairfax County Government Employees Union, a chapter of SEIU Virginia 512. As part of a statewide union, I completely support the SEIU 2024 legislative agenda for racial and economic justice. My remarks now center on what I think is most important for more than 10,000 Fairfax County General County employees and what it will take to keep us doing the work we signed up for, upholding the values we agree with, and keeping us economically whole while doing so until we may comfortably retire. Fairfax Union members appreciate the opportunity we now have to bargain collectively, and we look forward to negotiating our first contract as soon as possible. We know as well as anyone the challenges that our county faces in these times of ongoing economic uncertainty, and we know that the county's resources are limited by Dillon rule restrictions and bounded by what funding Virginia passes up through General Assembly legislation from Richmond. For this reason, I was hopeful when I heard the discussion at the joint Fairfax Board of Supervisors School Board meeting in November during the topic of the JLARC findings. It is so important to fund all of the county's educators, not just in the K-12 system, but also preschool, Head Start, and my former colleagues who are daycare center teachers. As you probably know, the JLARC report concluded that Virginia school divisions need 66 to 93% more funding, depending upon the model used to estimate the degree of underfunding. Adjusting the funding formula to reflect the actual expenditure of school divisions would require an increase in state funding by 45%, or $2,700 per student. While increasing the state share of education funding may not directly boost compensation for generally county employees, it would free funds that would otherwise be necessary for Fairfax County to spend on closing the learning gaps caused by the coronavirus pandemic, especially for students with special needs. As a DOT employee assigned to the Transit Services Division, I am also very concerned about alternatives that are being considered to support the Washington Metro system as it continues its struggles to regain ridership and fiscal equilibrium in the aftermath of the pandemic. I believe in regional solutions to regional problems. I don't see any shortcuts to resolve these concerns. I believe solutions for Northern Virginia will need to be well-crafted and responsive to the needs of transit employees and patrons who choose to support public transportation in all its forms. Just like I believe that all public sector employees across the Commonwealth deserve collective bargaining rights, worker protections, quality care jobs for all care providers, local control, a minimum wage of at least $15 immediately, and paid family and medical leave for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Hall. Next we have is number 34, Voter Test Robertson.
Mr. Chairman, number 34, number 35 are not present.
Okay. 36 is Patty Nelson.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, it's like magic.
Yes.
Listening to all this testimony, you have so much important work to do this session. It's a lot to do. So I'm Patty Nelson, a retired Loudoun County psychiatric nurse, and now the Secretary Treasurer of SEIU Virginia 512. As many of you know, the struggle for public employees to get to a union election and bargain a contract is very real and an injustice for public workers across Virginia. It's been a long journey working with the legislature to overturn the ban on collective bargaining for public employees. It took years of effort by myself and my union brothers and sisters. Since long before the ban was overturned, we have been building membership, union support, and advocating for workers' rights. But you need to know that the struggle continues. Here in Loudoun County on June 9th, we petitioned for a union vote for collective bargaining. We did our part. We earned our way to that moment, and then boom, the Loudoun County attorney has thrown up roadblock after roadblock, demanding to see confidential authorization cards, missing meetings, deadlines, and requirements by the Labor Relations Administrator. This prevented us from having a vote for 6 months. So even with well-intentioned members of the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors, it's like the wild, wild west trying to get to a union contract. Any union busting lawyer can throw a wrench in the works, denying public employees what they are entitled. So some of our priority requests are creating a labor board with clear collective bargaining standards, collective bargaining for every public employee, including home care workers, child care workers, and Loudoun County librarians. I don't know why librarians are left out, but our board believes there's something the General Assembly needs to do to clear that path. Other priorities include allowing local governments to pass critical displaced worker protections, quality home care and good union care jobs. Our older adults and people with disabilities and families rely on home care workers, yet they continue to earn poverty wages with minimal benefits. Empowering local control over county and city decision-making so that our local governments can set policies that are responsive to local market conditions and community needs. We need a minimum wage of at least $15 right now. Paid family leave and medical leave for working families. Thank you for your service. Thank you for considering these critical issues.
All right, thank you for your testimony. We will now go on to number 37, Ranga Peruri.
And Mr. Chairman, he is not present.
Okay. All right, number 38, Robert Benson.
Good morning. My name is Bob Benson. I serve voluntarily as a local representative of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation in Arlington. I've been a Virginia resident for over 50 years. My family and I have enjoyed countless wonderful experiences along the rivers and streams of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. I have so many treasured memories of sitting on a beach near Yorktown, strolling along the Potomac in Alexandria, hiking along forest streams in the Blue Ridge, and kayaking along the Shenandoah River. These memories are special because the bay itself is a treasure, not just for the recreation opportunities or the great crabs and oysters, but also for the enormous economic value of this huge watershed, including the many thousands of small businesses and jobs that it supports. Yet while Virginia continues to grow, we all see the stresses that growth places upon the bay system. Living in Arlington, I'm concerned about our loss of trees, the erosion of our streams, and increased flooding that has threatened our health and economic well-being and also contributes to downstream degradation. This degradation comes with a cost for all citizens. It reflects the reality that there are fewer green spaces to absorb heat and rainwater, and there are more paved surfaces that funnel ever-increasing volumes of water and pollutants into our overwhelmed streams and eventually into the bay itself. The good news is that we know very well how to fix these problems. We need to upgrade municipal stormwater management infrastructure and supplement that with highly effective green infrastructure, more green space, more trees, more natural stormwater catch basins. Arlington and other municipalities in the Commonwealth are doing these things or trying to, but Virginia cities and towns need financial help. Funding for the Stormwater Local Assistance Fund is needed to help localities address urban and suburban runoff. This is not in the current budget. I'm asking you, please, to appropriate $50 million to this fund. And while Virginia has made great progress in upgrading its municipal wastewater facilities, some are still woefully inadequate. The budget has $0 for wastewater treatment upgrades. I urge you to appropriate funds to help upgrade these facilities. In terms of return on investment, these appropriations make good sense. They will help communities avoid future costs and revenue loss from flood damage, rising sea levels, and pollution, all to the benefit of future generations of Virginians. Thank you for your time and consideration of these comments.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have number 39, Robin Church.
And Mr. Chairman, she is not present.
Okay, number 40, Roland Watkins.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Great. Thank you for taking the time to give me a chance to talk with you today. I'm Roland Watkins, a member of the Arlington County Commission on Aging, where I also serve as vice chair of the Legislative Committee. I speak today on behalf of the Virginia Area Agencies on Aging, its statewide directors, and the over 1.4 million older Virginians and their families. The area agencies on aging serve every locality in Virginia, helping older Virginians stay in homes as they age. The cost of services are provided by a combination of federal, state, local, and private dollars. We also speak for community-based services that enable our shared constituents to live in the communities they help to build in earlier years and where they choose to remain living today. While Virginia's total population is expected to grow by 22% by 2015, our senior population will double over the same period, growing from 20% of the state's population in 2020 to 31% in 2050. Now, the governor's budget contains the critical funding that ensures that older adults and the area agencies on aging don't face the potential of service reduction in future years. Now, during the 2023 legislative session, the Area Agency on Aging's network requested and was allocated $700,000 to prevent negative impacts based on a federally required reallocation of funding between the area agencies on aging. The area agencies on aging will be seeking support for a budget amendment requesting an additional $5 million that will support the array of unmet needs of core services across the network. Services from home care, personal care, transportation, and nutrition to home delivered and congregate meals. We are also requesting that the money be distributed equally, so individual area agencies on aging can meet the specific needs of the area served. Additionally, we request support for the funding necessary for an executive director of the Commonwealth Council on Aging. It is one more important piece of our efforts to elevate aging. Not only is staying in their homes preferred by older Virginians, it is the most cost-effective use of resources. To our legislators today, you have our trust and confidence as you tackle these issues confronting real Virginians. We give you our support and our offer of assistance as you commence this 2024 session. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we now have number 41, Brian Burney.
And Mr. Chairman, he is not in attendance.
All right. Number 42, Shataya Williams.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shataya Williams, and I am the Outreach Coordinator for the largest consumer-directed service provider in the state, serving more than 12,000 families across the Commonwealth, Moms in Motion. We are excited that the governor plans to fund all Priority 1 DD waiver slots. Unfortunately, if we do not address the provider capacity, awarding these slots will not solve the problem of people being able to access services. Consumer-directed services have existed since 2005 and give people the ability to choose how their services would be delivered. As of the end of 2023, these services have become unsustainable, with many providers closing their doors. In order to make these services sustainable, three things must happen. The first and most important change is that the General Assembly must fund a significant CD provider rate reimbursement increase. CD services have not had a significant increase since 2005. 2 years ago, the General Assembly temporarily gave all providers a 12.5% increase. When it came time to make permanent changes, CD services were left at that same 12.5 increase. This is the one and only increase we have seen since 2005, and it equates to an average of 0.66% year over year. How should CD services provide services using a 12.5 increase to cover a 133% increase in minimum wage? Last session, we got a bipartisan agreement in both the House and the Senate for a 50% rate increase in the budget. Unfortunately, our rates still remain the same. Second, last year the governor removed the requirement for state employees not to have a degree. We ask that you make the same change for CD services. Due to our low rates, we cannot hire and keep employees with degrees. The state imposed this requirement on CD providers in January 2016, but offered no rate increase that points to allow providers to hire these educated people. Lastly, in order to reduce the administrative burden on CD service providers, allow routine visits to be done using virtual methods. Routine visits are the visits held in between the initial visit and the 6-month in-person visits that happen in consumer's home. Like CSB support coordinators are allowed to do telehealth visits in between their in-person visits, we are asking that you allow all service facilitators for CD services to do the same. Thank you, and we thank you all for everything that you have done, and please enjoy your day.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your testimony. Number 43 is Tammy Wandong.
Good morning.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So
Okay. Okay, awesome. Good morning again. My name is Tammy Wandong. I'm a Prince William County resident of 18 years. I presently work in Fairfax County government in family services as a social service specialist. And what is that? I do social work. I have been employed with Fairfax County for 34 years, and I currently serve as the president of the local Fairfax chapter of SEIU Virginia 512. I have served as president for the past 2 terms. I serve in my union because it is important for the voices of our membership to be heard throughout our workplace and in the communities we serve. We understand that no workplace is perfect. So when we speak up and talk openly to our Board of Supervisors and state officials, we know that change will come as to how we address the conditions in our workplace. We know that we can change how we are compensated for the various positions we perform, and we know we can change the continuously rising cost of our benefits. This is the reason why our union members are willing to work tirelessly to get the remaining signatures needed so we too can enjoy the benefits of collective bargaining. 2 of our sister chapters have recently acquired the signatures needed to get a seat at the table. The Fairfax chapter is minutes away to secure the remaining signatures. We need collective bargaining, and we need it now. Collective bargaining will indeed change the way we care for our families, where we live, and how we take care of ourselves. In my workplace, I see clients in their home settings. I offer home-based services to those residents who need support to be able to remain in their homes. I love the fact that I know of many resources and how to connect them to our residents. I want to emphasize that we as workers face challenges. Our pay is low. There is a lack of benefits to part-time workers. We have a work overload and staff shortages. To overcome these challenges, we need better wages, good benefit packages, supportive supervisors, and collective bargaining. When we are compensated well by our employers, we can thrive more effectively by not having to worry about how we care for our families, working while we are ill, and better and be better public service advocates for our residents. I am asking for your support for a few of our legislative priorities, such as blocking anti-collective bargaining, blocking bills that lower minimum wages, and raising reimbursement rates. Will you support our priorities? Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy, and for your testimony. And now we are up to number 44, Teresa Champion. So
Thank you. I'm Teresa Champion with the Virginia Autism Project, the parent and legal guardian of a 30-year-old with an autism spectrum disorder and PANS PANDAS. I align with all the previous comments on wait lists, waivers, workforce, work opportunities. I would like to address two important items for the disability community for you to consider in the budget. First, paying family caregivers. The flexibility provided by Appendix K needs to be preserved and permanently formalized under consumer-directed services. Instead, DMAS and the Medicaid provider lobby are attempting to gut CD services in favor of paying agency providers. This is both dangerous for the disabled individual and a disservice to families attempting to care for their loved ones. Paying a parent to be a caregiver seeks to address issues raised by the COVID pandemic, including a crisis of caregiver workforce, addresses the long-standing long-term care workforce shortages, which have now become a crisis nationwide, addresses gaps in meeting the needs of communities of color and English language learners, and keeps vulnerable children safe with parent caregivers. It would cost Virginia more to pay for agency-directed care rather than paying family caregivers under consumer-directed services. Second, removing income penalties for recipients of a Medicaid waiver. Delegate Shin, as you have heard, has a bill addressing this, and a budget amendment may be necessary. With technology and medical advances, people with disabilities can have meaningful work experiences, but our policies place antiquated income restrictions that put these individuals at risk of losing their life-saving waiver benefits, and you've heard about this today. The person who receives a waiver may have daily support like attendant care. They may live in group home or other housing that allows them to live as independently as possible. The recipient receives services under a waiver. They do not receive income or money from that waiver. Income to the recipient can be earned from employment or unearned from benefits through Social Security. An unearned income issue arises when a parent retires or dies. The recipient who may have been receiving SSI is moved to SSDI. This benefit is based on the past work record of the parent. And an earned income issue arises when the individual is able to work at full or part-time job. The SSDI amount can push the recipient up to and over the waiver services income limit, thus terminating their waiver services. CMS has addressed this problem with updated policies. DMAS has refused to adopt CMS changes, but as you've heard, Delegate Shin has a bill. Please be aware of this issue. Thank you so much for your time.
thank you, Teresa. And we're on to number 45, Terry Lynch.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak and for holding this meeting online. My name is Terry Lynch, and I am speaking for NVAN, the Northern Virginia Aging Network, about the need for paid sick leave for workers who provide hands-on direct care for older adults and adults with disabilities. The Virginia Commonwealth Council on Aging also supports this request. A recent front-page story in the Washington Post made it clear that the wages of direct care workers are exceptionally low and the job functions can be grueling. It was reported that many would rather work for Uber or Amazon. Unfortunately, Virginia's annual direct care worker salary is ranked 42nd out of 50 states. Paid sick leave is not only an important workforce benefit, but a public health issue, and these workers need not only higher wages, but benefits like paid sick leave. Direct care workers may work while sick to sustain income. Most direct care workers are middle-aged and older women of color. In addition to low direct care wages, Virginia does not extend paid sick leave to direct care workers to allow financial stability while they are sick, which can result in working while sick. Some daily responsibilities include bathing, dressing, and assisting with eating. These tasks require the worker to be in close proximity to the adults they serve, and thus can be contributors to the spread of infectious diseases to older adults they assist. When direct care workers have more than one job, there is risk of transmitting contagion from one job setting to another. In 2021, the General Assembly took a first step in requiring up to 5 days of paid sick leave through Medicaid for consumer-directed home care workers. It's time to extend this benefit to other home care workers, those who work for agencies, as well as those in nursing homes and assisted living. NVAN urges the General Assembly to require employers to provide at least 10 days of paid sick leave for all workers, including direct care workers in nursing homes, assisted living, and home care. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak.
You're quite welcome. Thank you very much, Terry. Now we have number 46 is Thomas Pratt.
Mr. Chairman, he is not present.
All right, then we move on to our final person, number 47, Zena Hutchison.
Yes, hi, thank you. My name is Zaina Ashrawi Hutchison, a mother to 2 kids in the public school system here in Virginia and a longtime resident of Loudoun County. I'm also a member of various organizations here. The Virginia Israel Advisory Board is a state agency that operates within the Virginia legislature. Yet again, the budget proposes to give hundreds of thousands of unaccountable Virginia taxpayer dollars to this foreign government agency. Not only does VIAB get preferential treatment over the other advisory boards, but also, as Grant Smith writes, no state in the US offers more preferential market incentives to Israel over its US and state companies than Virginia. What are some of these companies they brought to Virginia, one might ask? Elbit Systems is Israel's largest arms producer, whose weapons have been used extensively over the years to kill and maim Palestinians, including in Israel's current genocide in the Gaza Strip. Elbit also happens to be the prime contractor for the militarization of the US-Mexico border. Another company is Israel Aerospace Industries, whose CEO Boaz Levy said on a November 22nd call with investors that their Heron drones have played, and I quote, played a pivotal role in Israel's attack on Gaza. Another one is Energex, a company that has been cited by the United Nations for its violations of human rights in the West Bank, in the occupied West Bank and the occupied Golan Heights, which also happens to have received 1/3 of all PPP loans that were given to VA solar companies during the pandemic. Since its inception, it is reported that this board has only reached quorum once. Among the most visible and active board members are people like Executive Director Dov Hoke, who a few years ago was retained by the Israeli Ministry of Economics to help Israeli companies enter the US market and who also served with the IDF. The board's VP, Chuck Lessin, who was forced to resign from the Charitable Gaming Board early in 2023 for failing to recuse himself due to conflict of interest, who also has a checkered past with other projects in Virginia, like the Tobacco Commission debacle, and like board member Julie Strauss-Levin, whose husband recently wrote that there are no innocent Palestinians. VIAB is not only blatantly and unfairly getting dangerously preferential treatment, ranging from political access, state resources, taxpayer money, and other outrageously embedded accountability unaccountably in our legislature, they are making Virginia and Virginians essentially directly complicit in what experts have considered war crimes. The involvement of the aforementioned companies may be used in the genocide case presented before the International Court of Justice against Israel. Why are we giving over $250,000 of our tax dollars annually to advance the interest of a foreign government when we have heard on this call today many testimonies who would greatly benefit from those funds for programs for elderly, the hearing impaired, and for childcare programs? I've testified more than once in front of this committee over the years, and I ask again for a budget amendment to defund the Virginia Israel Advisory Board. We should not enable this state agency to continue at the expense of Virginians and Palestinians. We all deserve better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, There's one individual who's in the waiting room who may have been registered under a different name. His name is Alex Muchnick. But if you're on and you would like to speak, now is the time.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Alan Muchnick. Thank you for this opportunity to speak, and Happy New Year. I didn't know the order in which the speakers would be taken. I live in the city of Manassas, and I co-chair Active Prince William, a local transportation advocacy organization. However, my comments go beyond Active Prince William's concerns. Active mobility is vital for healthy, livable, equitable, and sustainable communities, but investments in trails, bikeways, and pedestrian infrastructure have long been woefully neglected throughout Virginia. In addition, Virginia urgently needs targeted funding to reduce the epidemic of human injuries and fatalities caused by traffic violence. We support the efforts of Senator Elect Rome to dedicate 10% of each annual state budget surplus to a dedicated highway safety improvement fund. We also endorse the proposal by the Our Virginia Outdoors Coalition to allocate at least $50 million annually to fund diverse types of trails throughout Virginia. Last but not least, Virginia must provide its fair share of additional operating funds for Metrorail to provide a robust alternative to traffic gridlock in Northern Virginia. Thank you for this opportunity to comment, and thank you for your public service.
All right, thank you very much. And that, Mike, I assume that is the last speaker?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that's the last speaker.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for participating, either testifying or listening, so. And with that, I guess we can say that we're through.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you all.
All right, thanks. Take care, everybody.